will you cut me out maybe a couple of grand out of pocket at the end of the year just as your reverse rabbit's foot? That's my proposal to you.
I say I'll give you free swag.
Okay, free swag. I'm an absolute whore for free swag. So we're going 3X, 4X on that, just so you know, because I'm a fat bastard. Hey, everybody, welcome on back. This is the Rubbin' is Racing podcast with Spider and Large.
Yes, it is.
It still burns me a little bit, the whole Spider and Large thing. Alphabetically, it doesn't make sense. Age before beauty, it doesn't make sense. There's nothing makes sense about it. Okay, it's brought to you by NASCAR, okay? We have Daytona 500 coming up on February 19th. You can tune into Fox at 2:30 Eastern Standard Time. This is the 75th anniversary of NASCAR this season, so it's going to be a special one. We got the Chicago Street Race on July 2nd at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. Jimmy Johnson returns to the Daytona 500 this weekend, racing in the number 84. Travis Pastrana is attempting to qualify for the Daytona 500. That probably happened yesterday, but I'm reading the ad on a Wednesday. All this stuff is happening this year with NASCAR, and we're going to be here all season long. So tune into the Daytona 500 on February 19th at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and you're about to listen to Rubbin' is Racing. All right, so like I said, it's Rubbin' is Racing. This is episode 1. Right, so this podcast existed years ago, many years ago, with Clint Boyer and some guy named Dave Portnoy.
The pizza guy, right?
Yeah, it's the pizza guy. It went to hibernation for a while, and now it's back. Now it's back with me and Spider. We're going to be coming to you guys either on YouTube or wherever the hell you guys get your podcasts every week for 38 weeks throughout the NASCAR Cup Series season, the NASCAR season in general, the 75th season. Spider, how do you feel being in this chair for the first time?
I'm pumped. I'm really excited. I mean, we got a great season ahead of us, and I couldn't be more appreciative of the opportunity in front of us. It sounds like we're going to be able to speak to whoever we want in the NASCAR world, as well as go pretty much wherever we want in terms of races. So before we get started, huge thank you to NASCAR for taking the chance on both Large and I and giving us this opportunity. I'm super pumped and fortunate.
Damn right. I said it 1,000 times. There isn't another professional sports league that gives us the access that NASCAR does. So thank you to them. All right, so Rubbin' is Racing. What we're going to start out with is that we were in L.A. We were in L.A. a couple of weeks ago for the Busch Light Clash at the Coliseum. It's the second year in a row that we had gone there. It's the second year in a row that NASCAR decided to basically gut the L.A. Coliseum, fill it with asphalt, and run a NASCAR race in it. Spider, what was your impressions? What was your impressions right off the bat on how that L.A. race had gone?
So obviously last year was the first year they ran it. My biggest takeaway from this year was the retention. It looked like, it wasn't a one-off, one-time thing that NASCAR had success with. They were quick to announce that they would be back at the Clash following this original success of the event last year, which we broke the news on. Shout out us. Stay tuned because we will be breaking more news this season.
Right.
However, my concern was like, okay, sure, they pulled it off once. Is this a one-and-done type event, or is this something that's going to have replay, lasting, evergreen value? And I think that's exactly what it did. That's what this weekend proved. NASCAR did it again. I think it was a great race. I definitely have a few concerns, which I'm sure you'll outline here when I ask you what you thought of it.
Right.
But all things considered, great event. We had beautiful weather, beautiful entertainment, great racing for the most part. I know last year I was disappointed. Tyler Reddick looked like he was running away with the race until his car bailed out on him. So we didn't really have anything crazy like that where it impacted the race, like with, leaders up front or anything. Like definitely, Ty Gibbs' car catching on fire and everything like that. There's still obviously a chance that could happen. But all things considered, ravishing success from my point of view. How about
I wasn't
yours?
a fan.
No?
I mean, I think that NASCAR probably had so much money to spend on this thing, and I think they spent the money on the actual race, kind of getting it out there, and on the race experience. I try to tell people all the time, put a NASCAR race live on your bucket list. It changed my whole view
in person, you mean?
Of the sport. What's that? Yeah, in person. Getting to a live event for NASCAR should be on your bucket list. But it's also one of those things that you can enjoy at home. I don't think they got that with LA. Too many restarts. I mean, when you look at it, the average speed was in the 20s. The average, you can't get around
it's a quarter-mile track.
I do know it's a quarter-mile track, but I don't think it's a quarter-mile track that should have accommodated 27 cars. It's kind of a broken idea. I like the idea of the halftime. I kind of dug that and whatnot, but I didn't think the race itself was able to deliver for the person watching at home. Listen, NASCAR is one of the people that sponsors this, but we have to be 100 with them. I think that's what the kids say now, right?
You got to keep it 100, no cap. Yeah.
That being said, the experience of going to that, again, was second to none. I mean, there were stars all over the place. We had brought $1 million worth of game. I didn't realize just how goddamn popular those guys were.
Unreal.
It was as difficult as walking through a sporting event with Dave or Dan. Guys are legitimate celebrities. And then we're casually just bumping into Alvin Kamara. We're casually bumping into Matt Leinart.
Mario Lopez.
Mario Lopez, yeah. Another handsome guy, Mark Sanchez.
How about, tell them when we went into... So our good friend Jimmy Johnson, Legacy Motor Club, invites us up to his suite for an interview briefly. We go in, and it's just Blake Shelton and Gwen Stefani chilling in there. I almost lost it.
And there was a gaggle of like handsome Hollywood actors there on top of it. I think like Clint Eastwood's kid is there. We're up top in another box, and then on the deck, bunch of other VIPs. One of the garage guys there. I think Dale was at a wedding, so only one at Chase was there. Those
Shout
guys
out the garage guys.
Yeah, good guys. Obviously, we saw Clint. We saw a bunch of the drivers, as everybody else was running their little heats. It was a very, very good experience. I'll tell you, the difference between our box and Jimmy Johnson's box when you went down to the second floor in the Coliseum is fucking night and day. Yeah. Jimmy Johnson does it up right. So I think all in all, I love going to it, and I'll continue to go to it, but I don't know if it transfers. Did you watch it on TV? Did you catch it?
Yeah.
So by the way, so Rubbin' is Racing, it's made up basically of 4 people. It's myself and Spider, who do none of the heavy lifting.
Exactly.
None of the heavy lifting.
Credit where credit's due.
We pick restaurants, and he does not do a good job with that.
I have an eating disorder. I rely on Large's appetite.
The guys who do the heavy lifting is Liam and Quiggs. So Liam and Quiggs are on the ones and twos is Liam, and then Quiggs does all of our social for us.
Quiggs from Charlotte, big-time NASCAR fan.
Big NASCAR
his
fan.
Insight is invaluable.
So yeah, busy guy, so I don't have a ton of time for this, but I love it so much that I always throw my hat in the ring and I want to do the NASCAR stuff.
What did you think though? The 3 of us had gone. Liam, myself, and Spider were there live at the race. You weren't able to go because you were doing stuff still with football season around. Yeah. What did you think from the outside looking in?
I thought it was bad. I mean, it wasn't. It's almost like you can't call it a race from what it was.
Right.
I just don't. I understand the purpose of it is to get new fans, like people who wouldn't watch it. Mm-hmm. I think you get more new fans if you use all that money, promote it the same way, have the insane concerts, but do it at Bristol where you get a legit race. Nobody's going to get hooked from watching what they watched.
I agree. Do you think it gets better though if they cut that field? If they cut that field to, let's say, from 27 to 20. I say 27 to 17. Just I don't know why I said that.
It would help, but it's just not. It's such a small track.
Yeah.
You can't really get what you want to get out of it, and I think just doing kind of the gimmicks on the side, and not gimmicks, like having a Wiz Khalifa concert, that's cool. But if you do that at Bristol and have a great race that goes with it, people will get hooked.
And you couldn't really gamble on it. I think Barstool Sportsbook was one of the first to market to even put out any kind of lines in this thing. And I don't know if it's an exhibition or preseason, whatever you want to call it, that a lot of the big boys didn't come in line until probably day of the race or the night before. So it didn't even give people a chance to have a horse in the race. And we're going to go into the Daytona 500 in depth of just how many horses we're going to put in. Arguably too many horses if you're talking with Spider. He wants to put a fucking bet in on every car.
I'm working on it.
So I think there are things that they shouldn't abandon. They shouldn't abandon this idea of doing it in L.A., and it was an engineering marvel, an absolute engineering marvel. I mean, you got to admit, right, Liam? To go to it, even with the mufflers, it was still loud, but that was an experience for you as, one of your first races, right?
Yeah, no, that was the first race I've been to. I thought it was great, but to your point, and what Quiggs was saying, it's I thought that was cool because it was my first race. I can't wait to see them go 200.
Right.
Compared to going 80.
Yes,
that's
exactly.
That's going to be really cool.
And I'll tell you, 80 is even an overstatement. You can go 80 on that straightaway when there's nobody else in the state. But otherwise, those straightaways, guys were topping out around 60. And again, the average speed was somewhere in the goddamn 20s. And that's just so weird to me. So I guess then from that rookie perspective, like Liam, of going there and still being impressed, then it is a win. But I'm telling you right now, I guarantee that when we get on a plane tomorrow, you're going to have your fucking doors blown off when you get to Daytona. And I will tell people at home, if your first taste of this was the LA Coliseum, if you think that was your first taste,
go back for another taste.
Daytona 500 is going to be tar heroin compared to whatever little taste you got off of LA. I don't know if I can say that, but I just did.
Listen, I'm with all your guys' criticism. I'm just of the opinion that it's really, even what you guys are saying now is a testament to how good the event is. Even if people don't like it, I think it's you know, like I said, a testament to the fact that NASCAR has such a diverse portfolio of events. They have something West Coast based. Okay, you want a traditional race? How about you go to Phoenix, which has the great fan experience, the extra, you know, shenanigans going on outside of the racetrack itself, which we experienced at the championship. You can go somewhere like there, whereas LA, where there might be NASCAR fans and they don't have any track super close, like that might be a win for them. Or Chicago, Chicagoland closing down now, instead running on the street race might be an opportunity for those fans to get their fix. So yeah, I mean, I think it's give and take. It's give and take. So sure, it might not be the best event to watch on TV, but to be there in person, unbelievable. And yeah, I think that's the case for a lot of NASCAR events. Some are better to watch, you know, from home. Some are better to be boots on the ground for.
It's also a little bit like shitting on like preseason football.
Yeah,
like it's like it's not like meant to be like
exactly.
Like you're not going to get a Bristol level race.
Right.
It's like a little extra freebie that they give you, and it's
like when I was a kid, I went to a Patriots preseason game and got mad that Tom Brady wasn't playing.
Yeah. Right.
It's like. So
I'm being a little bit bitchy is what you're saying.
Yeah, you're being a bitchy boomer. You got to be realistic with your expectations.
All right, I'll take that. Either way, the race was run and the race was won, and we're lucky enough to have the winner of the race, one of our favorite guys, Martin Truex Jr., on with us, and we're going to hit that interview right now. All right, as promised, we got Martin Truex Jr. Martin Truex Jr. is here. He drives number 19 Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing, and he won last weekend. That's basically all that we have to say about Martin Truex Jr. Welcome back to the show. We've had him one time before. I'm going to start. If you guys read about Truex's win last week, the first thing they say is, after a disappointing 2022, Truex wins the LA Clash, the Coliseum. And you did have a disappointing 2022. Without a win in the Cup Series. The first thing that comes to my mind and out my mouth to ask you is, what was the problem last year? What's going to be different this year? I mean, drivers blame the car, themselves, you know, just luck. What's going to be the difference this year, Martin, because you're off to a hell of a start?
Yeah, I think, you know, honestly, the biggest thing is just we're better prepared. You know, last year, a brand new car, no experience, short practices. There's a lot of weekends where we got done with practice and I'm like, oh, we're screwed. Like we're not allowed to fix the car. We're not allowed to change enough stuff to fix it. So there was a lot of that. And then, you know, there was some races we probably should have won and we made too many mistakes. You know, whether it was pit road or pitting at the wrong time or, you know, me having a bad restart, all those things. And then, of course, we had some bad luck as well with races that, you know, we were in position to win. So hopefully, you know, no big hiccups and we make less mistakes. And I know our cars are going to be even faster than last year, and that's always a good thing.
Can I give you one other reason why you had a tough year last year?
Sure.
I am a big fan of Martin Truex. Every race last year, the 2022 season, I put a bet in for you to win. I multiple bets I put in. I know you can't comment on this. I put one in every fucking week, and I didn't hit a single thing. So I've decided you know, just because it was the Clash, I didn't put in any bets. I didn't bet on you in LA. That was over a year since I put a bet on, and you hadn't won, so I'm the bad luck charm. So this is what I'm telling you. I promise I will not place a bet on you all year. I will not, just to see how this goes. But if you do win, when you do win, and pay other gamblers multiple hundreds of dollars, which I'm not going to be able to take part in, even though I've been a big supporter of yours. This track shirt's like $120. They don't give these things away. You don't send them. Will you cut me out maybe a couple of grand out of pocket at the end of the year just as your reverse rabbit's foot. That's my proposal to you.
I say I'll give you free swag.
Okay, free swag. Now, I'm an absolute whore for free swag. So we're going 3X, 4X on that, just so you know, because I'm a fat bastard. What do you got, Spider?
I'm curious to know as how you prep for a race like the LA Clash, the Busch Light Clash rather, at the LA Coliseum. That's a racetrack that's literally built annually. They tear it up as soon as the race is over and they build it on a football surface. Very flat track. Like, there's not really another comparison track wise that you guys run on. How do you prep for something like that, kind of these one-off events?
Yeah, I think, we just used last year as an example. Really, we figured it was going to be the exact same track, and it was. I think they even tried to use the same pavement, which is a good thing. And then, we used our experience at Martinsville as well last year. JGR cars were really strong in the fall race at Martinsville, so we used some of that knowledge of, there's just the small flat turns to set up our car. So, for the drivers, it's just, you remember what it was last year and you go out there and do it. For the teams, it's a little more than that. But I think, my crew chief and engineer did a really good job of just coming up with the right package. And, we were fast as soon as we started practice, and we were fastest all throughout practice. So really just hit the ground running there.
You had a vastly different result between last year's performance and then obviously winning this past year. Does that change you the way you look at the Clash and this event? Like, does that change your relationship with kind of, like I said, the one-off events or the exhibition style showcase NASCAR races?
Well, it definitely changes that track in general. Like last year, we were so bad. I wasn't really looking forward to going back out there and racing because it was like, this track sucks. It's tiny. It's slow. It's not really that fun. And then, you go out there and you run up front and okay, it's fun again. Yeah. So that was really cool to be able to do that and just enjoy it really, because last year it was pretty miserable.
When you got up on the winner's podium afterwards, Fox, I believe, was broadcasting, and they caught like a pretty intimate moment that I don't think you were ready for. Kyle Busch came behind you, and he gave you a little goose on the inside of your thigh. And I'm telling you, I've had my inseam, measured quite a few times. He came pretty close to the promised land, and he made you jump there a little bit. Is the reason you didn't punch Kyle Busch in the face because you knew he might have been strapped in case he was getting on a plane to Mexico, which we know he likes to keep that thing on him when he goes south of the border?
Yeah, I was kind of a little nervous that he might be packing. I don't know. I mean, tough, but no, Kyle's great. He just thinks I'm good looking, so I don't even know what to say about that.
Absolutely. Talking about the other races that aren't that traditional, how do you feel it's going to go down in Chicago? Like, you're one of the guys from New Jersey. NASCAR just put out a map of where all the drivers are from. And the Southeast and the Southwest are littered with a bunch of different faces. And then you just have lonely Daniel Suarez down in Mexico, and you have lonely Martin Truex up in New Jersey. It's a wild map to look at. So you being kind of a Northeast guy, how do you think the road race is going to go in Chicago? Because I'm curious as heck.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be crazy. I don't know that, I've never raced on a street course, first of all. So I think what sticks out to me is just going to be, how bad are these roads going to actually be? Mm-hmm. These cars don't really like bumpy tracks too much. And I have a feeling like we're going to be hopping all four tires off the ground going through Chicago. So that's my biggest question mark. It's going to be wild, I think. It's going to be, hottest time of year. It's going to be super tricky, I think, to figure that place out. Super long track. It's going to be a handful, I think.
So I know Large mentioned, obviously, your relationship with Kyle Busch. Now, a lot happening this offseason as Kyle Busch goes to Chevy, Richard Childress Racing, and you get a new teammate in Ty Gibbs alongside you. What has that transition been like thus far, and how do you expect kind of having to mentor your new teammate Ty as kind of a veteran in the sport? And what are your expectations for Ty this year?
Yeah, I mean, so far it's too early to tell, really, right? Like what the change is, how things are going to be different. I know the biggest thing is our competition meetings are going to have a whole lot less complaining and bitching and moaning without Kyle being there. But in all seriousness, seriously, I think Ty's, he's a good kid. He's kind of chill, kind of laid back. I think he knows, kind of what he's looking to do and needs to do. But there's going to be a lot for him to learn. So I think, for Denny and I and Christopher, we're always there just to answer questions for him to lean on us, whatever. And, when it comes to like the competition stuff that we all talk about, there's so much information now available to the teams. They, when you're talking to them and you're telling them like my car was this and that, and here's what we need to work on, they know right away if you know what you're talking about. So it's not like, 20 years ago when all they had to work off of was the things you were telling them. Now they actually have all the data and the stuff to back it up. So, I think it's all going to be fine. Ty's obviously going to have a lot to learn this year, but he's picked up really, really quick on everything he's done so far. I expect him to do good things and, be running up front a lot.
How about, do you think we can still expect to see you and Kyle Busch maybe pushing each other or locking bumpers at some point, especially this weekend at Daytona?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think you always look for the guys that you trust and have experience racing with, especially at a race like this. And, if we found each other, at the front of the field towards the end, I guarantee we'll work together. But, when it comes down to winning the race, then it's, all bets are off as always.
That's right.
All right, so then let's look forward. We're going to air this on Thursday. Spider and I will be on a flight going down to beautiful Daytona Beach because we're going to be live for the Daytona 500, which I believe is sold out.
It is.
The grandstand is sold out. I mean, we have a big posse going down from Barstool, Alex Bennett, the guys from Out and About, who you're going to love. We got Vibs from Lowering the Bar. We got just a bunch of people going down. Talk to me about Daytona. Give me a little preview of the track. It's going to be a honey of a day. I think they're looking for it to be like in the low 70s and sunny. What's going on with Daytona with you? Give us a little preview.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great weekend, obviously, and biggest race of the year for us. So it's always cool to come down here, kind of start the season and get into that. But just this race is so huge; it's such a big deal to win, and I haven't won it yet. So really, my whole focus now is just all on Sunday. What do we have to do to be prepared for Sunday and qualifying and the duels and how all that goes when we work on the car. So I think the track's aging. It's been repaved. I don't know. 10 years ago, maybe, or so, 8 years ago, maybe. So it's starting to wear. And I think these cars are going to be a handful on Sunday. It's going to be warm. It's going to be sunny. Good handling car is going to be important. So that's really the key for us. And, then being around at the end, stay out of the wreck somehow. That's always the key here. You got to be in one piece at the end.
I know Large and I are thrilled about your Northeast representation, but also concerned that we might lose your representation as there was serious consideration on your behalf of retiring during the off season. Does coming back and winning like races like the Clash and having success early on in the season, how much does that impact your decision that is soon to be made?
Yeah, it's a big part of it. I think last year I just kind of wanted to understand, where I was and ask myself the questions like, how long do I want to do this? It's not, you don't just show up at the track and drive the car. There's a lot of commitments involved. It's a long year. You got to be fully committed to do it. And I was like, okay, where am I at? What do I want to do? How long am I, do I think I can do this? And it was really a no brainer when I answered my own question. It was like, yeah, you got to keep going. You're going to win a bunch more races and hopefully another championship. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Like, if I'm having fun, enjoying it and fully committed to giving my team everything I have all the time, throughout the week and for, 36 weeks a year or whatever it is, then I'll keep going. And, right now I'll tell you, I'm a terrible planner. I don't like to plan 6 weeks ahead, let alone, what I'm doing next year. So right. I'm doing great now and hopefully we'll keep it rolling.
Awesome.
Plus, it'll be nice to not have Kevin Harvick anymore, right? You can tell us. Right? We won't put it out there. Get that.
I mean, there's a bunch of races I would have won if he retired earlier. So
damn right. We're not going to keep you much longer because I know you have some other stuff to do, especially when you're winning. Everybody wants a little piece of you. But this is Martin Truex, and we're glad to be part of the Revenge Tour. That's what I'm calling this season for you, right? After last season, which everyone loves to talk about, I envision you tearing through the field just about every week with the help of me not placing a bet on you, and I'm going to hold you to that free merch stuff. Martin, it's always a pleasure having you on. Please come back on again, if you will, and have a very, very safe and successful season.
Good luck, Martin.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. Have fun. Come see me down here.
Absolutely.
I got one question for you.
See you at the 1948 Club, by the way.
One for you off the pod, off the air. Have you ever heard the term wedding line?
No.
So you're a fisherman.
Oh, so, wedding line. Yes, I have. Wetting the line.
Yeah, not betting line. Well, we do bet as well. But so wetting line.
Put this in the pod.
Okay.
So there's a gigantic fucking lake in the middle of Daytona, and which everybody knows.
Lake Lloyd. Have you been fishing there?
Yeah, they have a tournament here every year for charity. I do that, but I fish there every once in a while before the race too.
Maybe we'll get down there.
This was an excellent fucking question.
Well, you cut it loose, Large. You cut it loose. I wanted to ask him.
So, all right, hey, listen.
There's some huge bass in there.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What's the biggest bass you ever caught in Lake Lloyd?
I've never caught a real big one, like 4 pounds, but they caught years ago in one of the tournaments. They caught like a 10-pounder.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, I was thinking myself, you, Large, and maybe Sidney Wells can all do Rubbin' His Racing, Barstool Outdoors, Martin Truex, and go on a fishing trip at some point.
That sounds fun.
All right. Awesome.
And he was like, "Let's go, and we'll be wetting line." I said, "You just made that shit up." He's like, "I did." I was like, "I'm gonna ask Martin Truex," and so he didn't make that up.
Yeah, he didn't make it up.
He's heard it before. Let's go, my man, Martin Truex. All right, good luck this weekend.
Yeah, go wet a line. I'll see you boys later.
Thanks a lot. Let's go.
All right, so that was Martin Truex Jr. I'm telling you right now, that guy is one of the nicest people in NASCAR. And with NASCAR, talking to drivers, you have that balance. They're one of the only people that wear so many of their sponsors literally on their sleeves, right? So they're always kind of guarded and sometimes a little bit dry and boring. But Martin kind of dances that line where you can tell he's ready to shit on maybe somebody who has an illegal pistola as he's crossing over into Tijuana to catch a quick donkey show. So we really appreciate Martin coming on, and we hope that he stays in this game for a long time. And I don't know, like I mentioned at the end, it's going to be nice to have a season without Kevin Harvick. I was joking around. I like Kevin a lot. He's always been very nice to us. But with Kevin leaving after this season, you think that even plays in? You think that even plays into a guy like Martin Truex, who said he might walk away from this game and say, you know what, this is... Like, if you retire the same time that Derek Jeter was getting a fucking rocking chair every time he went to a different, like, major league, stadium, you think that filters into his head a little bit?
I'll say this. Martin Truex does not strike me as a, retirement tour kind of guy. I don't think we'll see him doing the Coach K, Derek Jeter energy. He seems, and not a knock on him, he's one of the nicest guys, as we just heard in that interview, but he's pretty, like, soft-spoken and relatively quiet. I don't think he likes to draw attention to himself, aside from winning races, maybe. So for that reason, I don't think that's on the table. But I will say this. I think we're lucky to have him as long as we have, and I hope, as it sounded in that interview, that he's kind of given a second thought to remaining racing. We're losing these guys, as you mentioned, Harvick retiring, so many of the veterans, unfortunately, leaving the sport. So I think it's important to appreciate and hold on to those ones that remain.
On Harvick, I just saw he was given an interview. Do you know what he's calling this season?
No.
The No Fucks Given Tour.
Oh, is that right?
That's what I was going to say.
Said he has a lot of beef to settle before he retires.
Did you see him, though, in the Clash? The Clash, he was very aggressive, even though he wasn't in, any position. And that's what I'm wondering. When people ask me, Large, if you won the lottery, would you still work? And I tell them right away, if I won the lottery, you wouldn't want me working for you. You wouldn't want me working for you. There's nothing that you could tell
Just
me.
Be a liability.
Yeah, 100%. Even if, and I do, I love my job, but you wouldn't want me working here. And I think that's kind of how I think I would be if I was in a correct, and I know I'm closer to retirement than you guys in 51, but I think that's how it would be my last year, like a no fucks given thing. And I think I'm seeing the opposite out of Truex. I didn't misspeak when I said this is the revenge tour. This is the revenge tour for a shitty 2022 season, I think. So I think that he's probably going to get maybe re-energized, and we're going to see him for possibly... He's only 42 years old. He's only 42.
It did sound like in that interview that the flame was relit underneath, and he really wanted to continue racing.
So let's talk about Harvick then. Let's move from Truex, and again, thank you, Martin, for coming on. Let's talk about Harvick. Do you think that he's going to be a real problem this season?
Problem how so? Problem as in...
Problem that he wants to take Chase Elliott into the wall for the time Chase took a poke at him.
I'll say this, Large. All I heard last season was about the problems that Ross Chastain started, the drama that he started, and how he had one coming for him. And look what he did. He turned it into a Final Four appearance, a Championship 4 appearance, excuse me. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's always that question of like, oh, are they going to be too aggressive? Are they going to put themselves in a hole where, they can't get out of? I'm looking at a guy like Ross Chastain who has, in recent memory, the biggest target on his back out of any driver I can remember. And he's seemingly kind of held his own in that position. So I think the aggression lies in what Kevin Harvick is going to make of it. Last season, I expect him to leave it all out there, but that being said, I think he'll do it in a veteran way where, he controls his own destiny. He's not going to leave the window open to be retaliated on in inopportune times. I think he's been around the sport long enough to know and choose his spots. Okay, this driver wronged me. Now's a spot where it might make sense to dump him, put him in the wall, gain some respect from him, remind him that I'm not happy, etc. However, I don't think we're going to see him to the level of aggression that Ross Chastain was this year, where it was borderline problematic. Although I say that, and I'm thinking back to Chase Elliott and Kevin Harvick almost throwing hands at Bristol. So you never know. I hope we get a great showing from Kevin Harvick, though, in his last season here.
But does that mean, is Chase Briscoe operating with knowing that he has, almost a guy with nothing to lose?
I
Almost
think
protecting his position, maybe, for the good of the team. That type. I love the enforcer type role that people can play from the back in NASCAR.
I would love to get Chase's take on that. That's probably so sick, having your boss or supervisor. Yeah, just being I don't give a fuck. No fucks given. We're doing us.
Yeah, I think that's how it's going to be on the last season of this when I'm about to step away. And then how do you think he's going to do in the booth? I don't see Martin Truex going into the booth. Quiggs had mentioned we sort of get a bandolier strap of drivers who step out of the, from behind the wheel, give a year or two maybe in front of a mic. They work out or they don't work out. NASCAR has no shortage of those. So I don't think they're begging for a guy like Truex to all of a sudden put on a suit and a mic. But they do want Harvick behind a microphone. How do you think he's going to do when he gets behind that mic?
I mean, I think he'll do a good job holding his own. We've seen a lot of drivers do play-by-play or broadcast the Xfinity races, try to get some reps in ahead of their Cup race the following day. But Harvick is one of the dudes that I feel is a natural transition into the booth. He has great insight. As I said, I keep beating a dead horse using the word veteran, but he's really been around the sport so long. He's seen it evolve from where it was at when I was a child just learning of the sport to now the modern day most recent car that they're running on the track. So I think that is invaluable.
How do you feel about him, Quicks? How do you feel about him putting his face in front of a mic?
I mean, I think he'll be good. I don't think he'll bring anything new. I feel with sports nowadays, these guys try to bring in Biz with hockey and Shaq and the guys who add humor and kind of bring a different thing to the booth than we've had in the past, which those are kind of halftime shows, but that's what I feel Clint was for them. He brings something different. I think Harvick will be good. He'll have great insight. I don't think he's gonna change the game in any way. I think he'll be a plug and play.
There's a little bit of uncomfortableness, a little cringy-ish moment when Gwen Stefani was talking to Clint in L.A., and she was talking about how he was all boozed up or something last time.
Yeah, did you see that clip?
I did not.
Oh, that's great. She came on, and they're good friends.
Yeah, they're
just great friends probably. And she was just oh yeah. First time meeting Clint, he was just shit-faced at a bonfire, telling me how much he loved my music, and Clint was like, "We're on air right now."
He's next. And by the way, Clint Boyer, is also one of those guys that you do want to go out and have a beer with.
Oh,
the nicest guys in the world, and I think that's the reason why they have him in the booth to add that differentiation that Quiggs had mentioned before. But I think he was next question. Let's go. I don't remember that. She's like, I bet you don't remember that. You were fucked up.
He's I'm at work right now.
Yeah, so it was good.
Shout out Gwen Stefani, just another reason to love her.
Yeah, but we were told when we were in the box with her, no cameras. We couldn't get.
I did not know that.
Yeah. That's why we had to do Jimmy Johnson
outside
out in the hallway.
Oh, I was terrified too.
Yeah.
By the way, I walked in. That was somebody I was starstruck.
Yeah.
Right when I walked in and saw her, I was like, "Holy shit!"
You Blake Shelton? He walked by me. He's a big guy.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Blake Shelton.
6'6".
I think walked by us
dude.
4 times to go to the bar, which I respect. Shout out Blake as well.
Right. Yeah. You can throw stones. It doesn't matter. I will tell you too that Kevin Harvick. We've never had him on this show. And for people who don't go to a lot of NASCAR races, or I'm joking around about all the access that we have, they have something called the 1948 Club, which they run right before the race. And it's absolutely amazing. I've never seen this in any other sporting event. We've talked about it numerous times. The drivers basically on the way to their car walk through a public event. It's VIPs, but it's still a public event. And they kind of like walk through as I have a roast beef sandwich and a beer in my hand. And I'm like, hey, Chase Elliott, how you feel today?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And they walk through, they schmooze. A couple of the older veterans don't really do it. They hang out on the side and then run through to their car. Harvick was one of them. Like Harvick,
Kyle Busch.
yeah, Kyle Busch is one of them. So I've never really even said hello to him until we did Nashville last year. We did the award show. We did the pre-party for the award show, and he came out in civilian clothes, jeans and a shirt, and wears glasses. And I was like, how do you feel about it? He's like, I'm getting too old for this shit large. And that's all it was. He's like, I feel like I just want to step away. I don't want to do 1948 clubs anymore, and I don't want to race like what Truex just told us. It's more than just showing up on a Sunday and putting the pedal to the metal.
Right.
And so we wish him the best of luck, and I hope he has a great season. And I do hope he gives us something to talk about.
Well,
I hope he roughs it up a little
We'll
bit.
be rooting for Stuart Haas all season between Kevin Harvick, Ryan Preece, and Chase Briscoe.
And our guy Briscoe. Yeah. All right, let's talk about, so we have the Chicago race coming up. It's going to be July 2nd. It's going to be hot in Chicago, and it's a street race. And the reason I'm bringing this up, we're going to talk about it ad nauseum as we get closer to July. We're going to have a big posse out there also. The whole Chicago crew, which is getting bigger exponentially at the end of the summer anyway, but the whole Chicago crew will be out there. There are now rumblings about them trying to do something in New York. I'm a native New Yorker. I was born in the Bronx, raised in Brooklyn. Spiders from Connecticut. Quicks, where are you from?
North Carolina.
Charlotte.
And you're from Massachusetts.
Yep.
Outside of Boston, right?
Yep.
Sitch?
Worcester.
Okay, Worcester. So, but we've been in New York for a long time. How do you guys feel about it? The two options that they're bandying about right now is a street course, and the other one is maybe taking one of the stadiums, perhaps Giant Stadium, and doing something similar to what they had done with the LA Coliseum. I'll boomer it right away and say I don't like this idea.
Yeah.
I don't like this idea for New York. Tell me what you guys think about it.
I think you're going to know where I stand on this, and I'm not a native New Yorker. I'm obviously just lived here for like the last decade or so, but I'm personally bring NASCAR north. That's literally how I see what kind of my job responsibilities is to try to get people around here in on NASCAR. So I think a big part of that is having the market here itself. So if there's a way we can run NASCAR in New Jersey, New York, whatever it may be, maybe MetLife, maybe the American Dream Mall, that thing's just basically a giant parking lot at this point anyways.
Yes.
So yeah, I think the more creative we can be, the better. So I'm here for it all, and I think it would also open the door to a new city to be exposed to NASCAR, which is pretty much untapped in that regard.
Are we doing what they do with Super Bowls? Like when we watch the Super Bowl happen in Arizona and it's 74 and mild and it's perfect to play a Super Bowl in. And if I go to a Super Bowl, I've never been to a Super Bowl, by the way. If I go to one, it better be 74 and mild. Not get one where it's in New Jersey and there's a fucking ice storm. So are we doing that? Are we jeopardizing? Because we all know that the one thing that kills NASCAR races, NASCAR is soluble in water. Rain and thunder and lightning kills NASCAR races. Just turns it into an absolute, a nightmare. So are we doing that too? Quicks, what do you think? Do you think it should come up this way?
I think it's good. I mean, as long as the races they're adding aren't pulling races that are currently on the schedule off. Like once you start doing that, like if they're just giving you extra races, go for it. And I feel like this is their attempt to get into the Formula One, like that sort of market.
Right.
I also don't I know you sort of think Chicago is going to be a logistical nightmare.
I do.
And it probably will. But there was a Formula E race
In
which
Brooklyn.
basically in Brooklyn one weekend, and I didn't even know it happened.
Yeah.
They can set it up and it not destroy or overtake a city completely.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right, and I am skeptical about it. And listen, I'm not going to be skeptical all 38 weeks, but I am skeptical about it. The only thing that turned me on was the fact that I think International Speedway Corp bought some land in Staten Island. And so if they have, Staten Island's kind of wide open. You race around the dump.
Yeah.
Like what used to be the dump, that thing I think is probably more doable.
Yeah.
And I know you say, they did this E-race, whatever in Brooklyn. But July 4th, the weekend before July 4th in Chicago is a different animal. It's a different animal. And I think if they do something similar, because they'd have to do it during the heart of the summer here in New York too, just for weather reasons, I think it'll be a worse animal.
It's going to be very ambitious.
I feel like July 4th in New York City is one of the most dead weeks that there is
That's
here.
true as well.
Everybody gets the fuck out.
But can everybody get the fuck out when everyone's trying to get the fuck in?
True.
Yeah.
Maybe there's too many.
Right, yeah.
There's
again,
probably more moving parts that I'm thinking of. But.
Yeah. So I don't know, but I'm telling you right now, I think Chicago is going to be electric. And I think it's going to add something. I think the race is going to be also very watchable on top of the venue being something that you probably have to be at.
Yeah.
Right? What else do we want to talk about?
Kyle Busch.
All right, Kyle Busch packs heat. Kyle Busch packs
We knew
heat.
it. We knew Kyle Busch was a rowdy boy. We knew he was a rule breaker. We knew he didn't give a shit. We knew he kept that iron on him. And that's exactly what he did. Flying back from Mexico, gets stopped, detained, I guess you would call it, by Mexican authorities after allegedly forgetting that he had a firearm in his suitcase or, baggage, I guess you will. So apologized. I guess this happened in January.
He did the absolute right thing. He reported it right away to NASCAR, so he wasn't going to get any kind of suspension or anything like that.
Yep.
And it really was like a no harm, no foul type thing. But what about his new team? Like, if you lose an altar boy like Tyler Reddick, you lose a guy like Tyler Reddick.
Tyler Reddick, very
says,
goody two-shoes
Yeah,
type.
very much so. One of our favorite guys. Very, very good.
All
to
he
Barstool.
wanted was just a long-term contract, so I kind of respect it. He wasn't causing any headaches or anything.
But you're the new owner, and all of a sudden you replace it with Kyle Busch, and you know you're going to get a little bit more attitude. You know you're going to get a little bit more on those type of headlines, and he winds up carrying a pistol into Mexico.
Here's my take. I personally think Richard Childress doesn't give a shit. This is the same Richard Childress that sent $1 million in ammunition to Ukraine when all this shit started going down with Russia. I think he doesn't give a damn about a little gun charge from Kyle Busch. He wants him in there. He wants him winning races. And based on the response from Kyle Busch, I don't think it's that big of a distraction. Like you said, he did everything the right way. I think he's going to move past this and focus on racing. And I don't think it's going to be a big team distraction despite whatever media narrative they want to push.
I think the only thing he did wrong was he almost grabbed the head of Martin Truex's cock after the crash at the Coliseum. That was a little strange, right? We'll talk about that at one point. I don't think there's a better segue than that to go to our next guest. It's Mamba Smith. He's done just about everything there is to do in NASCAR. He's been behind the wheel. He's been with race teams. He's now behind a mic, off and on. He's a pretty fascinating guy. I think you're going to like him. But before we go to him, I just want to remind you, this podcast is brought to you by NASCAR. We got the Daytona 500, which Spider and I are going to go to. It's February 19th. It's going to be on Fox. It's going to be at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We also have the 75th anniversary of NASCAR this season, so there's going to be a bunch of festivities to tune into. You got the Chicago Street Race, which I just mentioned. That's going to be July 2nd at 5:30 p.m. Got Jimmy Johnson, friend of the firm. Jimmy Johnson making his return to the Daytona 500, racing in the 84, which is going to be a little bit weird, right? The 84 versus the 48. And then you got Travis Pastrana. We're going to be speaking to Travis at Daytona on Saturday, so we're going to drop that with you guys. But he's attempting to qualify for the Daytona 500. Maybe we won't speak to him if he doesn't really qualify. Who the hell knows? But either way, I need you to tune into the Daytona 500 on February 19th at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, only on Fox. And here's Mamba Smith. Hey, everybody. So we're going 3 wide. That's what we're doing. We're going 3 wide right now. We're having a special guest. Is one of Spider and I, one of our closest friends within NASCAR. We were down in L.A., and we were chatting with this guy, and Liam, our producer, who doesn't know many people in NASCAR. I believe that was your first race when we were down there, right, Lee? Yeah, it was. And all of a sudden we were talking to Mamba, and after we were done, he was like, who the fuck was that guy? Can we have him on the show? I was like, have him on the show? He's been begging to be on this fucking show. So it's Mamba Smith. He's the CHO. He's the CHO of NASCAR, the Chief Hype Officer. Before we get going, Mamba, and again, we'd like to have you on multiple times because we like to cut your jib. Can you kind of tell everybody what you do, racing, what you do with NASCAR now, all that kind of shit?
Yeah, so just the quick hitters. I've been in the sport. I moved from Vermont to Charlotte, North Carolina when I graduated high school. I started racing when I was 4. I was a mechanic for Kyle Larson. We won a Can-Am championship. I went to Stuart Haas, won a championship with Kevin Harvick. Left there, went to this ARCA team. We won in 3 years. We won 30 races and had 6 teams. And I was the longest tenured employee. And I went from a mechanic to front office, so like comms, marketing, social media, all that stuff. All this time I was racing here and there because I ran out of money, because that's part of it. And then this past year, I raced an ARCA race at IRP, got a top 10, so stoked about that. Mm-hmm. And we're going to try and do a couple more this year, probably 2 or 3, maybe. Depends. If people want to go racing, I'm going to put them on the car and we'll go racing. So that's really what it's about. And then I do some like late model racing, like some local stuff. And now I'm the chief hype officer at NASCAR. So I just make sure everyone's they gave me a badge even, which is crazy. So I can just go in the office, which probably isn't smart.
We were sitting down and on that second floor, that Legends floor in the Coliseum, and all of a sudden you're talking to us, and some guy comes over and almost pushes me out of the way and was like, "Mama, good job." And it was Phelps, right? The big boss there and stuff.
Yeah.
So apparently people like you. I can't figure it out. We're going to start with a very technical question. If a Chinese weather balloon were to fly over Talladega, how long do you think that son of a bitch would last?
Let's see. I would say probably about 30 minutes because everyone would want to get together and try to shoot it at the same time. Like, you know what I mean? You gotta round the troops before it goes down.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you got, Spider?
So what else can we expect from, obviously you mentioned 2 races that you're going to be running this year. What can we expect on the NASCAR side of things? I know you pretty much get out to every race. There's a lot of new initiatives with the All-Star race, North Wilkesboro, as well as the Chicago Street Race. What events do you have circled, and what do you think it's important for maybe a relatively new NASCAR fan or someone unfamiliar with the sport? What are the events that they should pay attention to?
Yes, so I'm going to be doing all the driver intros at all the NASCAR-owned racetracks. So that's like Auto Club, that's like Chicago, that's like Daytona. I'm not doing Daytona. I'll do Daytona in August. Homestead, like any NASCAR on property, I'll be on the mic getting everyone hyped up for what's about to happen. I would say, obviously, if you can't make it out to Daytona because we're completely sold out. So if you can't come to Daytona, you need to put this on your list for next year. Chicago is going to be a banger because it's new and it's fresh. The All-Star race, that'll be wild just because it's old. Like it gives you old roots in NASCAR. I would say get to Miami because they have a nice beach party down there. That's always fun. And then if you're up in New England, you got to go to New Hampshire.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that.
The campground in New Hampshire, they don't mess around. And in Michigan, those 2 camp areas are wild.
And what did you think about Clash? Obviously, we all had a great time, as Large mentioned, in the Legends Suite hanging out. The second year in a row, NASCAR pulls off that event at the Clash. There's talks to make it maybe a more permanent fixture in the schedule. What do you know about that? What are your thoughts on the Busch Light Clash?
So I know that they like the concept is great. We're going to keep seeing it. The issue is that a lot of the fans that don't know is that it only can be in certain arenas. Like it's a football stadium isn't big enough. So it has to be an Olympic stadium or like a soccer stadium. And on top of that, it is February, fellas, and we can't do that just anywhere. Like you got to stay in like regions that are warm,
right?
That you want to go to. So I think that limits you a little bit, but they're going to figure it out. And it's going to be a lot of fun for a long time.
Before we got on, we spoke about how we don't think that should become a points race. You agree with that, right?
I think it's a hard sell to make a points race to the guys. Like I'll race anywhere, right? Like, but I think the way they race and then you throw points on top of that, I think it'll be a hard sell to the drivers. But it would ratchet it up. It'd be a lot more interesting, and people would be a lot more mad at the end of it. So that'd be cool to watch.
And then one other thing that we spoke about, I'm just going to try to touch on topics we already spoke about before you came on. How do you feel about the idea of maybe them coming to New York? Like we know you say you think Chicago is going to be it, but Spider is kind of on the fence about it. I'm dead set against it. Anything that causes me traffic, adds 5 minutes to my fucking commute, I'm 100% against. How do you like the fact that they're thinking about doing a street race maybe in New York or perhaps doing it in Giant Stadium? I know you said there would be some issues because I don't know what the dimensions of Giant Stadium
I don't know
are.
what that is.
Like, how do you feel about that?
I want to go. We got to be in New York. Like
Okay.
we got to get there somehow.
Hell yeah.
But my thought is it doesn't have to be a road course. Like you just block off a couple blocks, right? And we can do like kind of like a square-ish, indie type of racetrack. Like I see nothing wrong with that. Like that would be pretty dope, I think. So it doesn't have to be a road course. I just think we need to be there.
That's not a bad idea. What if they race like around Central Park or something?
That's what I'm saying. Like like we can make it some type of circle-ish situation, like
or even a square. I like the
or a square,
the Brickyard approach there.
Yeah, I don't care what it is. I just want to be running around New York with race cars.
Let's make New York a NASCAR market.
I can tell you right now, Joe Biden comes here for a half hour and the city shuts down. You try to make a road course around Central Park, and it will be, honest to God, there will be so much gunplay going on. I don't think the steak is worth the sizzle.
I think people will be upset.
Yeah,
people will be upset.
Yeah, you want to talk about Daytona specifically, because that's when we're gonna be seeing you. I don't know. Can you turn that camera around and let people know where you're at right now?
Sure. We're at the granddaddy of them all.
Oh.
Guys. Look at that car. They got 43 going by right there.
Yeah, so we're boots on the ground right now with Mamba in Daytona. Spider and I are heading down. We'll be there tomorrow. From what we could see from our 30,000 feet, it looks like it's perfect. It's a perfect racing day coming up on Sunday. It looks like a perfect weekend and all that stuff. What have you heard from the drivers? Is there any kind of insight that you can give us about how the track is running?
We just did media day for the Daytona 500. Everyone's hyped, man. Like the fans are already packing in here. Like there's a lot of campers in the infield. There's a lot of campers right outside. Stuff you'll love to see, because the party in Daytona is just a jam.
Yeah.
And the weather's supposed to be like 80 degrees all week. Like this is going to be one of the warmest Daytona 500 weeks that we've had in a long time. So everything is trending really, really up. Really up.
So, question for you regarding the rules changes that NASCAR announced recently. We're like Large and I are both relatively novice NASCAR fans. We're more casual, not super into the rule book or the ins and outs of the cars, the mechanics of the cars, etc. What specifically changes when NASCAR says, "Oh, we're not doing stage breaks at road courses anymore in the Cup Series"? Or how big of an impact? Well, I guess let's start there.
Yeah, so basically it flips it to what we used to have, right? So road course racing is different. You do it backwards. You do your fuel mileage from the end of the race back, so you try to pit the least amount of times possible throughout the race, because that'll give you an advantage. Well, with the stage breaks, we get a caution at the stage break. So that was messing up the strategy for the road course races, which makes it a lot more exciting. Because like if you're just trying to bet on yourself to win a road course, if you're like, I don't know, somebody that runs out back, like say you're LaJoy, right? And you can get better fuel mileage and cycle through to the front and really limp that thing to the last lap. With the stage breaks, it took that away.
Right.
So this adds that
more
element
strategy
back into it. More strategy. Yeah.
Got it. So probably the drivers would be in favor of that change. Now, there's one that they wouldn't be in favor of, and that's the lack of practice time at Daytona. There's been a lot of criticism, concern, conversation regarding that topic. What is your take regarding on it? Are the drivers being, are they overreacting, or do you think it's a valid concern?
I mean, look, they're races. Like if you give them, it doesn't matter if you give them 15 minutes, they're going to want 60. If they give them 50 minutes, they're going to want an hour. It just doesn't really matter. And, a lot of them grew up short track racing and practice was short. Like if you're racing on dirt, like you get like Kyle Larson, when he races on dirt, you get hot laps, which are like 3 laps. And then you get your heat race and then that's it. Your qualifier and your heat race. So like, but they're professionals. Like, yeah, they want more practice so they can figure it out, but they're good.
All right, well, allow me to play devil's advocate for a second. We got guys like Travis Pastrana wheeling a car for the first time.
You're going to shout out Quiggs on that?
Shout out my guy Quiggs. A great question he fed us with. Travis Pastrana, one of 4 drivers, or what is it, 6 drivers competing for 4 spots?
4 spots, yeah. 6
so how do you like his chances of moving on to this thing? You think we'll see him running on Sunday?
Yeah, he's going to make it.
All right. Yeah, what other guys do you think are taking those spots?
I think it's going to be Jimmy I think Travis is in. And I think it's going to come down to, honestly, it's going to come down to Zane Smith, Connor Daly, and Chandler Smith. I think those are the cars that are going to be like fighting for the last spot or whatever. Like it's just tough, man. That's a tough deal because if you don't get in the right duel, it'll mess up your whole thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if you're in a duel that, like, because the two dual races, you're racing against somebody, but you're not too. Like, there's a lot of nuance to this whole thing. So, if you're in the wrong duel and you don't have any help, like if you have no manufacturer help, and like the Toyotas are low, right? So if Travis gets in a dual race without any Toyota help, he's in trouble. For sure. So that matters.
And we're taping this on Wednesday afternoon, so all that stuff will be behind us by the time you guys are tuning into this on Thursday. So let's just say the field is set. Let's say we got our 40 cars. We're down there. I got an ice-cold Busch Light in my hand, and we're down there about to watch the race. We're a betting company, Barstool Sportsbook. Go check it out if you haven't. And they've been doing very well with putting up some great lines. Like I think we were first to market. We had mentioned it before this in the LA Coliseum and whatnot. So we're really trying to put some stink on it, as it were. Who do you like? Who do you like, Mamba? Who do you like for the Daytona 500?
The Daytona 500. I'm gonna give you three.
Okay.
And you gotta like Ryan Blaney because he's been right at it. Been right at it multiple seasons, like year in and year out at every plate track. He's right there for the win. So you gotta like Ryan. I feel like you gotta keep an eye out for the 22 Logano. He likes being aggressive. Like plate racing usually benefits the aggressor. And then I think my third one, I think I'm gonna go Kyle Busch.
Love it.
I don't hate it. So we already boosted on the Barstool Sportsbook. I had Blaney and Spider had Denny Hamlin. So either or are up to plus 600 on the Sportsbook. We're going to give you one of our outside of to win, because we got all these different exotics, I'll say for lack of a better term, and you tell us what you think about it. I'm talking the top Ford car. The top Ford car. I think that a good value, I see Chase Briscoe at plus 1,100. I think Chase Briscoe has the opportunity to be the top Ford car, and I know who he's running in Fords, but I think he has an opportunity to do that. Doesn't have to win, right? Just the top Ford in the finish. I think at plus 1,100. Don't you think that's a steal? Do you agree with me on that one?
Yeah, no. I mean, Chase about won his dual race last year, so he knows what he's doing. He's got some swagger to him. He's coming into the second or third year here at Truex, so he's trying to take over for Kevin too. So he's got to show he's that guy. So I like that. Where's speaking of Fords, where's like the Roush? Where are the Roush Fenway Keselowski cars at?
Brad to be the top Ford car is plus 700. Okay. Chris Buescher is plus 1,100.
Yeah, I would like I like either the 14 or the 17 just because Buescher won his dual race, so they're going to be fast again here.
They're plus 1,200 to win the race as a team.
That's not bad.
So I got one for you, Mamba. I'm looking at on the Barstool Sportsbook the car number to win the race under 10.5 is plus 171, plus money, almost 2-1 for a car under 11 to win. So real quick, let's go through that. We've got Ross Chastain in the 1, Austin Cindric in the 2, Austin Dillon in the 3, Kevin Harvick in the 4. Is there Kyle Larson in the 5, Brad Keselowski in the 6, Corey LaJoie in the 7, Kyle Busch in the 8. I almost said Tyler Reddick, excuse me. Chase Elliott in the 9. And fucking Eric Almirola in the 10. That's 10 drivers that are pretty fucking good value, 2-1. What are your thoughts on that?
I like that because this is like the only sport that you can do that in, right? The numbers are filling out the whole thing. You get 10 guys, and they're not trash guys. They're all like good guys.
Austin Dillon, Austin Cindric, 2 guys who have won at Daytona before. I'm sure there's more. That's just off the rip.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and the Hendrick cars are going to be good, right? You got Chase and you got Kyle.
You got the 2 best Hendrick. Well, in my opinion, the 2 best Hendrick cars.
Ross Chastain won at Talladega.
Yep.
It's Kyle Busch. Like, I mean, I would take that.
All right, so I think that's what I'm going to lock in following this conversation with Mamba Smith is under 10.5 car number to win the Daytona 500. Now, that being said,
I think I love that bet. And I thought that you were going to embarrass yourself.
Well, that's
I thought you were going to give. Honestly, I thought that you were going to totally fuck the pooch on that. And then, I thought mine was very good. Yours is actually better.
Hell yeah!
Yeah, I'm absolutely.
Well,
I'd like to end this interview right
I'll
now.
say
to be quite
this,
honest with
Large.
you,
It's
'cause
not
fucking
good
terrible.
for the sense that we have Danny, who's number 11, the first car over 10.5, and Blaney,
yeah.
12, the second
And
car.
we have both of them, yeah.
So
that's true.
actually, maybe that's not bad because then we have 1 through 12. You have an insurance policy on both if you take both those picks.
But
I mean, that's the thing.
Quiggs had when Spider came in with his list, and I should tell you, so Quiggs is the guy who does all our social. We're lucky to have him.
He does a great job.
It was
Shout
one
out
of
Quiggs.
yeah, he's just a fucking professional. He had said, Spider, if you bet on every driver, you're not going to make money. And I think that's basically he's got 40 bets going right now.
I'm gonna have to rework my list, but that's why I landed on under 10.5 because you get 10 drivers and they're all relatively pretty solid drivers. So I think I'm gonna whale play. I'm gonna whale play that.
Excellent. Go.
I love that. No, I love that. I like how you guys are doing that. It makes it way more fun. There's so many variables in NASCAR to play with the bets. Like, that's dope.
Yeah.
And we didn't get a lot of it. And again, we were talking about LA, and I'll ask your opinion on this too. Don't you think they should shorten that field? You didn't get to bet on the duels beforehand, whatever beforehand.
The heat races.
Yeah, the heat races, excuse me. There wasn't enough of that to get people into it. The LA race went well and it went poorly depending on which way you're looking at it. But, if you get that thing down from 27 to maybe 17 and you don't have it so, jammed up in there, I think that would have been pretty electric for people to watch. So we move on to the big boy, to Daytona 500, and you can bet on anything. The manufacturers, the car numbers, the drivers, just about fucking anything. And I think people, need to know that. And that's what we're trying to do at Rubbing His Racing. All right, so Mamba, we're going to be seeing you in just a couple of days. I'm looking forward to it. So you're going to be doing some starting. What are you going to be doing? Where are people going to see you?
So week in and week out, I'll be, doing the driver intros. So driver the number 12 Menards Ford for Team Penske, Ryan Blaney. That'll be me. That'll be my voice of God. Got some walkout music to it. So we're bringing a little bit of swagger. I'll be around doing social media stuff, right? So I always do social media takeovers for NASCAR. I'll be in the fan zone in the NASCAR, the eNASCAR portion, because I'm the GM of I'm a new GM to a iRacing Coke League. NASCAR Coke League team. So
congratulations.
We had a shot at our first race win at Daytona to start the year, and Daytona happened and we got our asses bit. But that's okay. We're gonna rack them back up in Milwaukee. It'll be fine. So I'm all over the place, man. I'm all over the place. Mamba Smith 34 is all my socials. Hit me up.
Understood.
DMs are open, and I'm single. So hey.
Oh, easy. It's not that type of show. All right, if you are single, we're bringing down Joey and Pat. Listen, right. You'll come on again, obviously, right?
Yeah, anytime, boys. Anytime.
Perfect. All right, so that was Mamba Smith. Mamba, I'll see you at the open bar. All right, so that was Mamba Smith. And before we even get to anything else, we spoke a lot about gambling with him, and we're about to close with a little bit of gambling. We went 3 wide with Mamba Smith, and now we're going to get into some picks. Before I do that, where are you going to do all these picks? I'm telling you, there's only one place. It's not true, but there is only one place, and it's the Barstool Sportsbook. Okay, we have Barstool exclusives on there. So you can do picks and parlays with guys like me and Spider, and in every other sport with guys like Big Cat and El Prez and everybody else. There's tons of ways to bet. There's daily odds boost, there's live in-game bets, there's move the line plus teasers, Parlay Plus to bet within the same games across sports, easy to navigate and use, data and content keep you informed, easy to secure registration, more ways to deposit and withdraw your dough. How do you get there? You download today and you create an account with the code RUBBIN. When you go to the Barstool Sportsbook and you download the app and you create an account and they ask for a code, use the code RUBBIN, RUBBIN. There's a $1,000 new player bonus. If your bet loses, you get up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Listen, you must be 21 years or older to gamble, and if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER, but download the Barstool Sportsbook, use code RUBBIN, get a $1,000 new player bonus, and best of luck. All right, so Spider, Mamba, good guy, correct?
Great guy. I mean, what a lucky guy. He's done everything in the sport.
Yeah, and I tell you what, you say that there's a dude who grew up in Vermont who's now involved with NASCAR, and then you mentioned casually that he's a black dude. There's only 2 or 3 guys that do that, and one of them is Mamba, and I think he's fucking awesome. So Mamba had thrown out a bunch of stuff. Like, you didn't know him from Adam before he went on, Quiggs. The guy's a pretty cool guy,
never heard
right?
of him, but yeah.
Yeah, he seems
awesome.
like he's pretty accomplished. I'm going to have him on again.
Everyone in the sport loves him, too. Like you said, we were in the clash.
God.
Everyone's saying hello. We could barely have a conversation with him.
Yeah, and he's walking through. So let's get to some picking is racing.
Yeah, let's
Is
pick.
that what we're
Let's
gonna
pick
call
the
them?
tires, Large.
Yeah.
Let's pick the tires.
There it is. We'll pick the tires.
That's my name.
All right,
for
you
it.
want to go first? What are you looking at?
Yeah,
'Cause you have a
listen,
bunch. I only have a
I
couple.
did have a bunch, but like I said, Quiggs is an invaluable part of our team, and he really talked me off a ledge. I think I had 10.
Hold the list up to the camera if you have the original.
But don't. Let me see.
We won't. We'll blur it. But
Yeah, blur
we'll just
this
make
out
it. We'll make
because
it
this
known.
is for
Why?
Spider's eyes only. I'm going to give you the winning picks here in a second, but first look at what I started with.
Just far too many picks.
So these are all outright winners, and these were all top 10s.
It's way too many picks.
Now, I have boiled it down to just 2 plays. However, you're going to have almost as many drivers as what you just saw on this note card. The first play, and one of the reasons why you should take advantage of that ad that Large just read and sign up on the Barstool Sportsbook using code RUBBIN, is because Barstool Sportsbook is one of one of the only places where they let us pretty much run wild with what we want to do in the betting world. They asked both Large and I, hey, pick a driver that's your favorite to win the Daytona 500 this coming week. I said I like Denny Hamlin, a guy that's always there at the end, who's won the Daytona 500 3 times. Large, who'd you take?
I took Blaney. Blaney's due. And I know these are 2 chalk picks, but we're coming out of the gate with 2 chalk picks, and then the Barstool Sports would kind of tighten up the odds for us.
So with the Barstool Sportsbook, under Bet with Barstool, you can get both Ryan Blaney and Denny Hamlin on the same ticket plus 600. Now, I don't know about you, Large. Daytona is one track where it's essential, in my opinion, in my betting strategy, to have more than one driver. There's nothing worse than taking one guy saying, oh, it's Kyle Busch's day. He goes out there and gets put in the wall after Ricky Stenhouse spins out on lap 1. You know, that's no fun for anyone. So I really, really, really like you said, it's a little chalky, sure, but then again, it's Daytona. We might as well pick the guys that are always there at the end. Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney. That play is plus 600. On to my second
Was
pick.
plus 525, boosted to plus 600 for us.
Again, another reason why the Barstool Sportsbook is the spot.
Boom.
Name another book where you can get 2 drivers on the same ticket like that. Yeah. On to my second play. And this one is, I think there's a lot of value. I want to read this and make sure I'm giving you the right number. However, on the Barstool Sportsbook, the car to win the race, the number of the car, I am taking under 10.5. I believe it is plus, give me 1 second here. I'm going on the Barstool Sportsbook. Scroll under race props. Car number of race winner. I'm going under 10.5 plus 171. And I know what you're thinking. Ryan Blaney, number 12. Denny Hamlin, number 11. But guess what? We already have them in our betting portfolio. Now you're telling me we get every car 1 through 10? So we're getting Ross.
I love calling it a portfolio.
Yeah, I don't think portfolio is the word.
This is an investment, people. This is Daytona.
So this one we just went through with Mamba.
Yes,
and I got to be honest with you. I'm impressed by it. I'm piggybacking it.
You're taking that.
Yes,
I think a lot of you guys at home should consider this too. Plus 171 for drivers number 1 through 10. That's Ross Chastain, 2 of the best Hendrick guys, both Austins who have won Daytona 500s, plus everyone else who I haven't even thought of yet. Large, tell me about who you're picking.
I'm telling you right now, I like the manufacturer bets. And listen, this is what differentiates NASCAR from anything else. You can bet on the number of the driver who's going to win. You can bet on the car. You bet on the team. You bet on the individual driver. You can bet on top 10, all this kind of stuff. So I think that it just adds a little nuance for you just to sprinkle the field. Throw a little bit of dough out there and have some wood in the game. I was looking at the top Ford car. And if you look at the top of those odds, it's Ryan Blaney, guy that I already have. Ryan Blaney is paying about $450. Then you have Joey. Joey's paying about $500. Keselowski's paying $700. Austin Cindric won last year, paying plus $750. Then you have Harvick on his, his I'm out of here tour. No fucks given.
No fucks given.
No fucks given tour at plus 900. I don't know why it's plus 9. Chase Briscoe is paying plus 1100. I think Chase Briscoe has the opportunity to be the best Ford. Doesn't have to win. He just has to finish as the best Ford in the race. So Chase Briscoe at 1100 plus 1100. I'm going to jump all over that. Is that a bad bet?
No. And
Okay.
Briscoe's another guy that always seems to be around late in these races.
So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to let you close off with some of your bets. So I'm just going to get these out of the way. Top Chevrolet. Top Chevy, I got Austin Dillon at plus 1,300. I think that's a pretty good bet. I think that's quick. Yell at me if I'm wrong here.
No, I think the thing about like super speedways and Daytona is there's no such thing as a good or bad bet. You
Right.
can have all the insight in the world. It's who can stay clean. There's going to be a wreck that takes out 15 guys, and no matter how good they're racing. So I love going long shots and like just hoping your guy's alive at the end. And I think all those guys they're long shots, but they're legit drivers that can.
Speaking of long shots, how about a guy Noah Gragson 50-1?
Put your $1,000 sportsbook bonus on that.
Why
Money back
wouldn't you?
guarantee, but you could have 50 G's.
I will tell you that we spoke about the garage guys earlier, and I did get reached out from Derek Yoder, who's a friend of him. Yeah, he's a good guy. And I just basically, we were chatting back and forth. They said, who do you like in Daytona? He really likes William Byron. He got his first career win in the late summer race at Daytona, won Atlanta in the spring, and HMS is always a bad fast when it comes to super speedways. So he's like, remember this DM after he or a Chevy wins the 500. So listen, Spider and I know our limitations. We know what we know about NASCAR and what we don't. Quiggs is a resource for us. Liam is just a pretty face. He adds nothing to this fucking thing. So if you're one of these people, like a Mamba, like a Derek, maybe the garage guys, all these dudes, and you have something, send it in to us.
Yeah.
Because I need some opinions on how I can responsibly bet my money in the Barstool Sportsbook. So I'm going to jump on William Byron because of Derek. And then the last thing that I'm going to do is I got Chase. I got our Ryan Blaney, Denny Hamlin thing. I have Austin Dillon for top Chevy. Chase is the top Ford. And I'm going to take Ty Dillon to finish in the top 10. It's plus 500. Ty Dillon, I see him sneaking in and being a top 10 car at the Daytona 500. And again, plus 500, it's an easy way to pick up some dough. So those are my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 races that I have going into Daytona 500. Clean up your book right now. Oh, you know what? 6, because I'm going to jump on you with the minus 10.5.
So I guess I'll give you 3 more, and these are top 10 finishes. There's a lot of guys, and again, call it chalky, but I'm looking at this. These are plus money for 3 guys I think could win the race to finish in the top 10. Let's start with Kyle Busch, plus 130 on the Barstool Sportsbook. I think he's been running really good. And he's going to, well, I shouldn't say been running really good. I think he's going to be running really good with RCR in this new car. Ross Chastain, plus 130 to finish top 10. Another guy, he's done it at super speedways, breakout season last year. We saw him win Talladega. And finally, Joey Logano, defending NASCAR Cup champion, a pick that I don't really like telling you guys, but he's plus 115 to make the top 10 as well. There's a lot of other guys in there that are worth a look, but those are 3 guys that I think are worth a little sprinkle, especially at plus money.
I hate those picks.
Yeah.
You do, right?
I hate top 10 picks. I feel like I
kind of like
Daytona top 10 pick.
Larges.
You've got the guy in there. He's running great. He's bouncing between the second spot and like the eighth spot all race, and 199 car's in a big wreck. He's out. He gets put in the little like did not finish thing, and he finishes 25th. And it's the value's not there. You're getting him at
You're probably
plus
right.
115.
You're probably
but
right.
it's also if Joey Logano stays clean all race, he'll probably be in the top 10.
Right.
Like
but I
somewhere
also
around
kind of
there.
like Large's approach. If you're going to go with the top 10 pet, you might as well take a long shot. There's probably a lot more value there.
I think you do a couple long shots.
I tell you, I usually throw something in featured matchups. I know you'd mentioned, Quiggs, that they had Jimmy Johnson and Travis Pastrana
I
as
think
a feature.
that's
That's
the lock of the year.
Yeah, and it's not the
What do you
greatest
think,
odds.
what's a
Jimmy
lock of the
Johnson.
We have a head-to-head matchup.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy Johnson to finish higher than Travis Pastrana, and it's minus 182, which is I don't like doing odds like that. I don't think there's a world where Pastrana beats him. He hasn't raced a NASCAR in 10 years. He isn't going to get to practice. Jimmy Johnson's raced at Dega a million times. It feels like you're betting on like a one-on-one basketball game of like who's somebody recently retired. Like Carmelo Anthony versus like Antonio Gates. Somebody who like
Wow,
Two different sports.
but it's like Pastrana races rally car. It's like of course like Jimmy. There's a chance that Pastrana doesn't even qualify tonight.
Right.
right.
Like I'm getting that in today. I guess it'll be before it airs, but that you might just get an auto winner.
Right. I mean, there's a chance that
I
Jimmy
love
doesn't qualify. Right. I mean,
But out of
there's-
the
no,
guys,
So, all right. So, by that logic, you would probably have Connor Daly and Travis Pastrana not qualifying out of the 6. Those would be your 2 out for the 4
probably
seats.
because I think they're doing these qualifying laps with no practice. Like you have to have your shifts down, stuff like that. Where it's like that's probably muscle memory for Jimmy. Jimmy's
Right.
going to
Yeah.
be good. Like
Well,
Travis will know the. I don't
is
know.
it?
He just.
I don't know. I think you're too one-sided here. Jimmy's also kind of wheeling that next-gen car for the first time, though. No,
Yeah, but like
I understand he's a lot more familiar with stock cars than Travis Pastrana, but at the same time, I think you're discounting Jimmy. I don't know.
It's Antonio
The
Gates
matchup
versus
ones-
Carmelo Anthony.
There
The
you go.
matchup ones that they have, and we have some say in these too. I just didn't think to put it in. I would have probably thrown in Jimmy Johnson and Alex Bowman just to see the 84 versus the 48. I think it just kind of makes up a little bit of a romantic story. They have Tyler Reddick versus Kyle Busch, and they have that almost even. Tyler's plus 1. Yeah, well. They have Bubba Wallace, Austin Dillon, Ross Chastain, Denny Hamlin, and Keselowski and Martin Truex Jr. Listen, the thing that we want to get to, you guys, is that NASCAR is going to be a must-watch event this season. Whether you make it to the track to watch it with us or whether you're watching it on Fox, I think you should tune in all season. And I am going to tell you that it's a lot more fun when you bet responsibly. Bet responsibly with the Barstool Sportsbook. So again, download the app. Use Rubbin, get your $1,000 new player bonus, and must be 21 years or older. If you have a gambling problem, 1-800-GAMBLER. I'll throw that out there again. This is the first episode of Rubbing is Racing. We had Mamba Smith on, and I think Mamba Smith's going to be on a bunch of times. We had Martin Truex on, and I'm hoping we have him on again and again as he wins more races this season now that I'm not betting on him. And I hope you guys come back with us. So for Quiggs, for Liam, for Spider, and for myself, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.